Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Hey, by the way, here we are now in June. Our Preterist Pilgrim Weekend of 2021 is just a little bit over a month away. It will be July 13th through 15th. It will be a virtual Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. Once again, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers. Pardon me. Our theme this year is somewhat of a continuation from last year. It is the book of Revelation as the fulfillment of God's Old Covenant promises made to Israel, resulting in salvation for the nations. That's kind of a lengthy title, but it's an important title, an important subject. You just really don't want to miss this. It will be live streamed. It will be free of charge, although any contributions you can give us to help us defray the cost, because we will be paying our speakers just like as if we brought them in. So we will have a lot of expense anyway. So be looking forward to that. July 13th through 15th. I'm putting the finishing touches on my lesson. I originally intended to do 2, perhaps 3. Well, guess what? I'm going to do 2. My 3 that I had originally chosen, the titles, were different titles. Well, now I've decided to focus exclusively on the Song of Moses in the book of Revelation, because it is such an important topic. Anyway, all right, yesterday I shared with you how attempts are made to divide the Olivet Discourse, and Matthew 24:36 and Mark chapter 13:32 are really the key texts on this. And I'm sharing this with you in light of the absent master motif. Because after all, in Matthew chapter 25:14 and following, Jesus told a parable of a certain nobleman. He was getting ready to go into a far country, and he gathered his servants and he gave to them talents. One he gave 5, 1, 2, 1 talent. And he said, "You take care of this. You do my business until I return." And after a long time, he returned. So we are told that this absent master motif in Matthew chapter 25:14 and following, since it says Jesus was going to be gone a long time, must refer to so far 2,000 years. Well, I'm sharing with you, I started yesterday, taking note of the fact that in Mark chapter 13, we also have a reiteration of the absent master parable. And it is set within the context of Jesus' statement, but of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels, not the Son, but the Father only. So here you have what virtually all commentators who divide the Olivet Discourse, we have that key passage, but of that day and hour knows no man. And that is taken to influence our understanding of the absent master motif. But there's a problem with that. A massive, unget-overable, and fatal problem. As I pointed out yesterday in introductory remarks, when Jesus made that comment in Mark 13, Matthew 24, of course, it is clear that he did not know the time of his coming, except to say he knew it was going to be in that generation. In Matthew 24:29-31, he talked about his coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, with the angels, with the shout of the archangel, with the sounding of the great trumpet, to gather the elect And in verse 34, he emphatically said it would occur in that generation. But you see, there's a huge difference between knowing what generation something is going to happen in and knowing the day of the hour, knowing the more precise time. I mean, we can all agree with that, can't we? I mean, let's bring it down to even a smaller illustration. If I call up my best friend here locally and I say, "Hey, Mike, I'm coming out to your house next week." Does he know what day and hour I'm going to be there? Obviously not. Does he know what week I'm coming? Well, sure he does. Because I just told him, I'm coming next week. But I haven't told him. And he says, well, do you know what day you're coming? Well, not yet. I don't know what day I'm going to be there yet. Don't know what time of day I'm going to be there. Folks, we understand that. We even do that all of the time. We make plans to travel here or there. We tell our kids, now, kids, we're going to be gone in the spring. Just want to let you know, we're going to be gone in the spring. Well, exactly when? Well, don't know yet, but it'll be in the spring. Whatever. So, what I want to do now is to demonstrate the exegetical fallacy of saying, as many commentators do, if Jesus did not know the time of his coming in Mark chapter 13, then when James said the coming of the Lord is drawn near in James chapter 5, then James couldn't be telling the truth. Because after all, if Jesus didn't know the time, then James couldn't know the time. And if Jesus didn't know the time in Mark, then guess what? When Peter said the end of all things has drawn near, he couldn't know that. This argument is a horribly anachronistic argument. Because it says what was true then must always be true. If it was true then, it must be true now. Well, you know, if we're talking about moral concepts of right and wrong, okay. But if we're talking about contingencies, exigencies, plans, if you please, that is not necessarily true. Let me illustrate. Very, very shortly before his crucifixion, Jesus was speaking to his apostles. And he said to them, this is found in John chapter 16. He said to them, and I'm going to read the text rather than quote it. But now I go away to him who sent me. And none of you ask me, where are you going? But because I've said these things, you have sorrow. Or because I've said these things, sorrow has filled your heart. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is necessary or expedient, it's to your advantage that I go away. Pay careful attention here. If I do not go away, the Helper will not come to you. But if I depart, I will send him to you. And when he has come, pay very careful attention, when he has come, he will convict the world of sin, of righteousness, and judgment to come. Or of judgment, excuse me. Of sin because they do not believe in me. Of righteousness because I go to my Father and you see me no more. Of judgment because the ruler of this world is judged. I still have many things to say to you, but you are not yet able to bear them. However, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak of his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak. He will tell you things to come. So here is Jesus telling his apostles, I have many things to say to you, but you're not even able to bear them yet. However, I'm going away. And it's expedient, it's necessary for you that I do go away, because if I don't go away, the Holy Spirit will not come. The Comforter will not come. But if I go away, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will guide you into all truth. Now, ask yourself the following question. Point number one. When the Holy Spirit came, did he inspire James to say, the coming of the Lord is drawn near? Did he inspire him to say that? Well, yes, he did. Okay. Was he inspiring them to tell the truth when he said, the judge is standing right at the door? By the way, if the judge is standing right at the door, I have a doorway right over there. Now, he's spatially near, but he's also temporally near, right? He's not 2,000 years away when he is spatially near. He is temporally near. His presence has drawn near. And when the writer said in Hebrews chapter 10 and 37, speaking of the second coming of the Lord of Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 28, to those who eagerly look for him, he will appear a second time apart from sin for salvation. Speaking of that coming, the writer says, and now, in a very, very little while, the one who is coming will come, and he will not delay. Question. Did the Holy Spirit inspire those words? Yes, he did. Did the Holy Spirit inspire those words as truth? Well, he did, unless Jesus lied. So here's the point of this, obviously. When people say, well, we know that there's language in the New Testament that sounds like the coming of the Lord, the judgment, and the resurrection was about to take place in the first century. But, Jesus didn't know when he was coming. Therefore, we can't know that. And the writers of the New Testament could not know that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a denial of the revelatory work of the Holy Spirit, who was sent by Jesus, sent by the Father actually, through Jesus, to guide the apostles into all truth, to show them things to come. Was James speaking of things to come when he said the coming of the Lord is drawn near? Was Hebrews speaking of things to come when he spoke of the very, very little while coming of the Lord? Was John telling the truth and speaking of things to come when he said these things must shortly come to pass? We'll say more about that later in this week. What was true, therefore, in Mark 13:32, Matthew 24:36, was no longer true in the epistles, was no longer true because Jesus had sent the Holy Spirit to guide them into all truth and to show them things to come. And those things to come included the coming of the Lord, the judgment, and the resurrection. The Holy Spirit guided them to say the coming of the Lord was near in the first century. You know what that means? That means that the absent master of Matthew 25:14 and following, the absent master of Acts 1 and following, or 9 and following, that means the Holy Spirit was guiding the apostles to know, to say, and to teach. That coming, that return of the absent master had drawn near 2,000 years ago. We're going to drive that point home tomorrow. So I'll see you on the flip side.